Welcome to Santa Clarita Weekly. Get ready to dive deep into the heart of our community as we explore local news, events, and sports like never before. Now here's your hosts, Tim Haddock and Sage Rafferty.
Hello, Santa Clarita. This is Sage Rafferty, and joining me today is one of the top journalists, or the top journalist in Santa Clarita, Tim Haddock. How are you doing today, Tim?
Hi, Sage. Yes, I'm doing great. How are you?
I'm doing great. So let's get started. So the impossible dream has become a reality for the Castaic Coyotes boys basketball team, and they fought their way to the first ever CIF championship title, defeating the El Segundo Eagles 63-52 in a thrilling game. So I know you got a chance to talk to the coach. You want to talk about that?
Yeah, I talked to Coach Dominique Butler before the game on Friday night against El Segundo, and a couple of things that he talked about his team. One of the things was that he was confident in his players, and not because of the way they've been playing in the playoffs, but because he said that they play better against teams that they're not familiar with. He called it the fear of the unknown. They don't have it. They don't have a fear of the unknown. They tend to rise to the occasion. They tend to rise to the level of their competition, and it showed against El Segundo. They were not afraid. They were not going to be scared of a team that had won a league championship, that was the number one seed in the tournament. They didn't care. They went in, they played their game, which Coach Butler said too. They came in there with their own strategy, their own philosophy, and they didn't back down. They didn't fear the potential of El Segundo, and it showed. They were not better for the whole game, but they ended up turning it on in the second half, and they dominated. They dominated the second half, and they won their first championship.
What were Coach Butler's specific challenges to the team?
Well, it wasn't so much a challenge. I remember him saying that they showed a lot of fight, even though they didn't win any games during the league season, during the Foothill League season. It was the last game of the Foothill League season on senior night when Coach Butler said that the kids showed him the kind of character that it had. They didn't back down. They didn't give up, even though they were losing and even though they were struggling. They fought the whole way through. And because of that, he knew that this team could go on a playoff run like they did.
How significant is this victory for the Castaic program and its future?
Well, it's a good sign. It's a good sign. And one of the things about the Castaic High program, and Coach Butler brought this up too when I was talking to him, is it's all homegrown kids. You know, they're not these AAU type kids. They're not recruited in from other programs. They're all kids from the Castaic area, from the area up there. It's really nothing special. At the same time, it is something very special because the kids have each other's backs. They fight for they fight for their school. They fight for their own town. So it's nice to see. It's nice to see a homegrown team succeed the way they did. And they didn't bring in any special kid. They didn't bring in any special players. They are just a tough homegrown team that is having a lot of success right now.
How did the team build the trust and the resilience that led to this championship?
I don't know if there was anything to build. I think it already existed. And this is one of the things Coach Butler said too about his kids. You know, he saw that they had this heart all year long. They had this not never surrender attitude. It just didn't translate during the Foothill League season, which is kind of weird. And one of the things that he brought up was that they didn't play well against teams that they were familiar with. And once they got over that, fear, they were unstoppable, and it showed. It showed in the playoffs. They were able to focus more on their own performance, on their own game, and not worry about what the other team was going to do. And so I think that was the big difference. That was the big difference.
What are your expectations for this team for the state tournament?
Well, yeah, that's the next step. They will find out who they're moving on to the state tournament next, and that will be a new challenge for them. But I don't think that they're going to. I don't think it's going to affect them that much. They've risen to the challenge through the CIF division playoffs. So once it comes time for the state tournament, they're going to be in the same position. And they're going to be facing teams they've never faced before, that they don't know a whole lot about. And for whatever reason, that seems to work to their advantage. They focus on what they can do best. They focus on what they can do well. And I won't say they don't care about what the other team can do, but it's not important to them. They know what they're good at. They know what they can accomplish. And Coach Butler has them believing in his system. So I think that they can win a couple games. I don't know how far they're going to go, but I do know they have the ability and they have the talent to at least win a game or two. We'll see how far they go.
All right, let's
have you been challenged in the playoffs yet?
That you did with,
all of them are
Coach
challenges. All of them are talented teams we played so far. I think that we've just done our homework and we made our adjustments based off of their personnel and took away certain things that we noticed in film, and then we put a game plan together in practice, and that's how we made our run.
Okay. Are you surprised how good these guys have been playing lately?
No, I'm not at all. I knew that they had it in them. They just have to collectively do it in order for us to be successful. I knew it was always in them. I believed when a lot of people didn't believe. I believed when people said we were not going to make the playoffs or we weren't a good team. I just kept the faith and knew that if we stuck with them and stayed positive, this could.
All right, so let's turn our attention to the West Ranch girls basketball. Can you give us a brief synopsis of what happened this season?
Well, the West Ranch girls basketball team, in a lot of ways, were similar to the Castaic boys basketball team. They didn't have a great Foothill League season. They were the 5th place team in the Foothill League, and they got into the playoffs as about a 500 team. And they went on a nice playoff run too. They got all the way to the semifinals. They played Palos Verdes, and Palos Verdes, it was just too much for West Ranch. Palos Verdes was a good team.
Yeah.
And
considering the team's turnaround from last season, how impressive is a playoff run for the West Ranch program?
It was incredibly impressive. From where they came out of the league season to jump into the playoffs and just start knocking off teams that were supposed to be better than them. It was very impressive. And it looked like they had the same approach as the Castaic boys basketball team, where they didn't fear any of the teams they were playing. You know, it's just this no fear attitude about playing to the best of their ability and knowing that when they're at the top of their game, nobody can beat them. And that worked for them for a few rounds. It was nice to see them work their way through the playoffs and get to the semifinals with that kind of philosophy.
So does that team have the potential to challenge for CIF titles in the future, in your opinion?
They showed that they can make a good playoff run this year. So if the coaching philosophy, if the coaching pattern holds, then the kids will follow that. So it looks like they have a good culture. They developed a winning culture this year, and hopefully that translates to more playoff runs in the future.
All right. Well, let's switch gears and let's talk about the Dodgers.
Yeah, the Dodgers are in spring training. They've made a lot of additions to their team. The most significant addition to the team is Shohei Ohtani. They got him from the Angels. He won the American League MVP last year. He's considered by many the best baseball player in a generation. He's not even just the best baseball player in the league right now. Baseball experts are saying that he's the best baseball player that the game's ever seen. He's a power hitter.
Yeah.
He can hit for average. He's got all the skills of being a great hitter. On top of that, he's an ace pitcher. He can be the number one starter on any team. Unfortunately for the Dodgers, he's not going to be able to pitch next season. He had surgery on his arm, and
that's right.
That's gonna sideline him from pitching for the whole year. But
I think he had his first live batting practice, right, since his elbow surgery.
He's had a couple. I know he went to spring training a little early. He got in some batting practice. On the first day of batting practice, he saw 22 pitches and hit 10 home runs. And so everybody was excited about how he was hitting batting practice home runs. But at the same time, it looks like his arm is not affecting his swing. He looked like he had all the power, he had all the contact. He had, everything seems to be working well for him at the plate. And he's had a couple other chances to get some batting practice in. So don't want to get too excited, but he's seeing live pitching. He's seeing real pitchers, real major league pitchers for the first time in a few months. And it doesn't seem to be slowing him down. The surgery did not make him a worse hitter. So that's a good sign. That's a good sign for the Dodgers.
Well, he has a really massive following. I know a lot of people have been showing up to practice just to watch him. He's not going to be in the spring opener, but he may be in some upcoming games as he recovers, right?
Oh, no, he'll be playing. He'll be playing in spring training, but he's only going to be the designated hitter. So we'll see. We'll see how much he plays. I'm sure they're going to ease him back into the lineup, and there's no rush. They're in spring training. There's no rush to get him as many at bats or as many appearances as possible. They do want to take their time with him and be careful with him, but they still need to get him up to speed so he's ready for opening day. That's the target. First games are happening this weekend, so we'll finally get to see a lot of these players in action for the first time, and see the new players, the new faces on the team, and seeing how they're developing and how they're fitting into the Dodger culture. Then with James Paxton, he's kind of middle of the road starter. The only good thing about him is that he's left-handed, and the Dodgers are going to be lacking in left-handed starting pitching for a while, and that's because Clayton Kershaw is recovering from an injury too, recovering from surgery. So he is probably going to be out of the rotation maybe until July. He might not come back until after the All-Star break. The people are talking about he may miss half the season. So Kershaw is kind of a question mark, and Walker Buehler is another one who's coming off arm surgery, and is a familiar name with Dodger fans, but at the same time, he's not 100% healthy. There's already reports coming out of spring training that he's not even going to pitch in spring training. They're not even sure when he's going to be able to start, pitching live games, even pitching practice games. So another question mark. If he can get healthy, get up to speed, get ready for the season, then the Dodgers will have a very solid rotation. But for now, it's going to be Yamamoto, Glasnow, and Paxton as the top three. And then there's a bunch of pitchers who had some experience last year, but I mean, they're really if you look at them, they're really rookies. A lot of them don't have a lot of major league experience, and the Dodgers are going to have to put a lot of faith in a lot of kids to get through the first half of the season. So we'll see how that goes.
Well, the Dodgers. So yeah, Yamamoto is there's a lot of anticipation around him, and I believe the Dodgers have him for about 12 years, right?
Yes, and that's
one of the largest deals in Major League Baseball history, right? I think it was $325 million.
Yes, it was a very big deal. They signed him for a very long-term deal, and that's kind of goes against the Dodgers' philosophy too when it comes to pitchers. Dodgers never give pitchers long-term contracts like this. So, like I said, there's a lot of pressure on him. The Dodgers are putting a lot of faith in him. They're expecting him to be the ace of the staff for the next decade, and we'll see how it goes. You know, he's going to probably be the opening day starter. He's going to be one of the starters in the games in Korea, and it's going to be interesting. I mean, everybody says that he's ready to be in the major leagues, but you never know until it happens. So we'll see. Everything is pointing in the right direction. It's just I'm not sure exactly how good he can really be, and if he can be, you know, a Cy Young caliber type pitcher in the major leagues. They're going to be the team to beat. Everybody in baseball has already put a target on them, and they're going to be fun. They're going to be fun to watch. It's just hope they can meet the expectations because they're very high this year.
So the landfill is getting a lot of the Chiquita Canyon landfill is getting a lot of heat lately.
There's already a lawsuit filed against the landfill. Community members have already filed a lawsuit because of the odors coming from the landfill. The county has received, Los Angeles County has received 7,000 complaints from residents over the last few months.
Well, they have the LAcounty.gov has a Chiquita Canyon landfill complaint hotline. So I'm sure they've been getting a lot of complaints. Certainly
thousands of complaints. Thousands of complaints. And the landfill, I mean, the complaints aren't being ignored. The landfill has been cited, has been I don't think they've been fined, but they've definitely been in violation over 100 times. You know, the Air Quality Management District has found them in violation of health regulations. The EPA is part of a task force that's investigating the landfill now because of the chemicals, the toxic chemicals that are being detected at the landfill. The community has shown up, like you said. The community nearby the landfill is upset. They've been dealing with the foul odors. They've been dealing with illness. They've been dealing with just tons of pollution. I don't even know how to describe all the different types of pollutants that are being out there for months now. And there was a meeting at COC at College of the Canyons on February 8th. And at that meeting, a environmental forensic expert gave a report on the different hazardous and toxic pollutants that have been found at the landfill. He basically went over everything that he found at the landfill, all the different types of pollutants that are there, and came to the conclusion, just two conclusions. One was that there needs to be more studies done to find out how bad it really is. But the other thing that he said was that there were no alarm bells. He said there were no alarm bells about the level of pollution that's being produced at the landfill. And that got a lot of people upset. They heard that, and they didn't want to hear it. You know, they they were calling for the landfill to be shut down. They've been saying that they've been treated unfairly for months now. They don't feel like anybody is listening to their complaints, and yeah, they're ready to get rid of the landfill altogether. The people who live near it are tired of being affected by all the pollution that it's producing.
The county has been spending millions of dollars on it. People are getting money to, swap out their swamp coolers with air conditioners, weatherproofing their doors and windows, adding insulation, different things to try to keep the odor out of their houses.
Right. And I do know that one of the things that Supervisor Catherine Barger has started is she created a fund to pay for utility bills of people near the landfill for having to run their air conditioners all summer long because they couldn't open up their windows and let fresh air come into their house because the air was polluted. So I know she's started a fund to help pay those utility bills. People can apply to get reimbursed for their high electric bills from over the summer or just for whenever. And like you said, she's trying to get the landfill to pay for people to upgrade and remodel their houses, basically to make sure that the air pollution doesn't get in, to make sure that there's different types of filtration available to them so that the air pollution is not as toxic, not as dangerous, not as damaging. She's been at least trying to help the people in the community. At the same time, she was also one of the supervisors who voted to keep the landfill open a couple of years ago, and that might have been a mistake. Looking now, maybe it was time to shut that landfill down and try to come up with a different way to deal with the county's trash. On February 13th, after the meeting at College of the Canyons, there was a meeting at Castaic Library. And this was after Catherine Barger sent the letter to the landfill and basically asked them for assistance, asked them for help. And one of the specific things she was asking for was relocation services for people who live near the landfill. And they wanted to find a way for the landfill to pay for people who are getting sick, who are getting affected by the landfill, to find a different place to live. I mean, it's gotten to that point where people who are sensitive to these type of things need to find other places where they can live. The landfill addressed those requests and again didn't have good answers. They heard Catherine Barger and they said that they're going to start implementing some of her ideas, but it's going to take at least a month. They said probably more like 6 weeks before they can even start working on the things that she asked for. The Hart District is probably, I'm not going to say they are, but they're probably going to be firing a bunch of teachers. They're going to be discussing it. Let me take that back. They will be discussing it this week, and it's on the agenda. The school board has already identified how many teachers need to be laid off. They've identified which teachers need to be laid off, and it's not just teachers. There's also non-classified employees like I guess like bus drivers, cafeteria workers, custodians, other staff members who are part of this layoff plan, and it's going to happen. I mean, I don't see how they can avoid not laying off teachers. It all comes down to money. It all comes down to the budget.
Yeah. Well, I think in the other upcoming board agenda, I think they have a recommendation to probably lay off up to like 80 employees.
80 employees, and from what I saw, it's about 50 teachers.
Yeah, and they're hoping that some people are going to retire or quit, and then they can, just not rehire. But that looks like they need to. That's what they're looking at, is 80 total.
But that doesn't solve the problem, though. I mean, on top of having to lay off, nearly 100 employees in the district, the schools are going to have fewer teachers for the kids. No matter how you slice it, there's going to be fewer teachers for the kids. The classroom sizes are going to still be big, and the amount of attention that teachers can give the students is going to be reduced. It's not going to get better. So,
well, they have had to reduce attendance too, which is one of the major reasons that they're in this problem, is there's reduced attendance.
Right.
And I don't think the district has done enough. I mean, if you look at another school district in Santa Clarita, which is the Saugus Union School District, they voted to close the school, and they reassigned the teachers in that school and the staff, but they had to close the school because they realized that, attendance is down and due to budgetary reasons. But then William S. Hart has really not taken any kind of action in that regard.
Until now. I mean, that they finally realized that, we're getting fewer kids, and just this last year, I was looking at the numbers. Their enrollment this year is about 20,000 students, and that's down almost 500 from last year. And it's the projections for the next couple of years is to lose about 500 students each year. So by the time the 2025-26 school year rolls around, the projected attendance is going to be around 19,500 kids, which is down 1,000 kids from right now. And so the lower the attendance, the less money the district gets. And so the question comes now is, like, they decided that they're going to lay off 50 teachers and 80 staff members. Well, that's good for this year, but what happens next year? Are they going to lay off another 50 teachers? And where does it end? How long is this going to go on in the district, where every year they're going to have to be looking at how many teachers do we need to lay off and how many staff members do we need to lose? So
the first thing that they do is they look to teachers. And I think there are a lot of people that are very upset about that.
That should be the first thing that gets cut. Definitely.
All right, Santa Clarita, that was our show. I'm Sage Rafferty, and I'm here with Tim Haddock, and join us next week for Santa Clarita Weekly. Thank you.
Thank you for listening to Santa Clarita Weekly. You can watch the show on Santa Clarita Star's YouTube channel and Facebook page, as well as listen in on the radio at KQRU 107.9. The show is available on Spotify, Apple Podcasts, and Google Podcasts.